things we can do is stay hydrated. So in this episode, we're going to introduce you to our 30-day hydration challenge and give you all the tips to stay hydrated and healthy this summer. So make sure to hit subscribe below to follow us for all our other episodes. And let's get going. Dr. Jess, before we get started, what is in your glass today?
So I'm working on some kombucha. So it's a way to stay hydrated, and I have positive probiotics. I make it myself. It's not super expensive. And so it's a great way in order to be able to kind of get multiple things done all at once. So Dr. Bobbie, what's in your glass?
How's the taste doing?
It's
I know
getting
you were
better.
working on the taste.
Yeah. So I made the mistake. I use honey as like the sugar with, because that's what you need. You need for the fermenting process, you need to have sugar in there for the SCOBY, that's this kind of alien form looking thing. That's what kind of eats the sugar. That's what ferments the tea. So I don't think I had enough sugar in there. So it wasn't getting as, like carbonated almost. I mean, it's not carbonated, but a little bubbly. So I changed that, and it's actually doing a lot better. It's not that I didn't like it before, but it tastes better now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dr. Bobbie, what's in your glass?
I am having just a cup of coffee with a little bit of cream.
Nice. Yeah.
Nothing crazy, nothing special.
Right.
Yeah.
So the reason why we're talking about hydration today is because it's something that it just sneaks up on you so easily, and it's sometimes hard to recognize how important the preventative nature of hydration really is. So as an example, like we can wait until we're thirsty to drink, but then at that point you're already dehydrated. So you're behind the 8-ball. And how we think about hydration is really important. So what you're going to be doing, just like you want to prepare for a run by warming up and stretching, we also want to think of how are we preparing our hydration for that run or yard work or whatever it might be. So Dr. Bobbie, what are ways that you have noticed before you're super thirsty, right? You're not like, oh my gosh, I'm so thirsty. But how do you know when you're like, I bet I haven't had enough to drink today. I bet that's the problem.
So one of my key signs is headaches. And let's say this is like, I'll drink a good amount, but it may not be the right things to be drinking. Certain drinks give us more hydration than others. Even though it's all liquid, obviously water is one of the best, and water with electrolytes, especially if it's super hot, is awesome. So sometimes I'm not really thirsty, but I haven't had enough water to fuel my body. And I think sometimes if you go multiple days, you don't feel thirsty, but you start aches and pains, cramping at night. And for me, the big one is headaches. I really notice that my head hurts. I wake up with a headache, but I still don't feel thirsty. So I think for me, that's one of my biggest signs. How about you, Dr. Jess? What are some signs that you may not be having enough water?
So for me, one, the headache for sure. And it's this headache that I get across my forehead. It's not like a single-sided headache like a migraine. It's not tension that comes up into the back of my neck. It's like this across the forehead headache. So that's definitely a sign. The other thing that happens to me especially is my blood pressure will get really low. And so if I've been down to if I'm like out in the yard and I've been down to pick something up and I stand up, I'm like, whoa, I'm getting lightheaded, right? So then I'm like, okay, like I need to drink some more, replace with electrolytes. And that's just me. That's my blood pressure. It has a tendency just to get really low. So mine is kind of both of those. But then if it gets pretty bad, I mean, you definitely can get those cramps. And I've had this happen with a number of patients where they're like, it's the weirdest thing out of the blue. Like in the middle of the night, like my legs cramp up. Like I'm not doing anything in the middle of the night. Why is that happening? And again, it's like you think because you're not out exercising in the heat that you don't have to replace with electrolytes. But what we forget is that when it's hot outside, even if we're doing errands and, going into our car, out into a parking lot, into a store, back out into that hot parking lot, the car is now still warm. It takes a while for it to cool off. This entire time you're perspiring. So
Mhm.
as we perspire or sweat, that's how we dissipate the heat from our body. That sweat absorbs, ideally, unless you live where I live, where it's 100% humidity right now, and it just sits on you, and it doesn't dissipate. But as you're sweating, you're losing electrolytes or salts, other things other than water. And so sometimes it is a matter of replacing with electrolytes and with water. That is that balance sometimes.
So when we're looking at, so that's important for just anyone, right?
Mhm.
So when we're looking at those individuals that are active and they are out running, they are out exercising, biking, or even a day at the beach, because a lot of times I think when we're in the water, we don't realize we're in the water, so we don't feel hot. We don't feel the sun as much, and we don't feel the sweat because of the water coming out, or because we're in the water, I should say. So, what are I think for those athletes, it's even more important to replace those electrolytes. Water is super important, but how can we, what are some good ways to add in electrolytes into our system without using like Gatorade, drinks that are full of sugar?
Yeah, there's a ton of different mixes out there, and this is what I always tell people. One, if you're on medications, always just confirm this with, your doctor or a pharmacist to just make sure that anything that you're adding to your water, any supplement that you're adding, you always confirm it's not going to interact with something that you're already taking, or that there's not too much of something. Let's say you have kidney dysfunction, then you get something that has like not the best balance for somebody with kidney dysfunction. So this is not a one size fits all approach. There's not one electrolyte mix that's better than others. So that I will say, like, right out of the gate. The other thing is my preference for what works for me took me a while to figure out. So I had to try different electrolyte mixes until I found one where I could run in the summer and not get a headache afterwards. So it's like you just kind of have to
Mhm.
figure that out. But like, no matter what, you want to prep your day with drinking water. Like, when you wake up first thing in the morning, have a glass of water. Like, you will never go wrong with that. Then as you're prepping to, let's say you're going to drive to the beach, you're going to go for a run, whatever it might be, work out in the yard, then fill up your water in advance. Have a nice big jug ready to go of water, and then one with an electrolyte mix in it. So if you don't have it ready and then you're out doing said activity and then you have to stop and think, oh, let me go figure out where I'm going to get that done. I know for me, I'm doing yard work. I'm all covered, my hands are dirty. I'm not going to like walk inside, track stuff on the floor, that's just more work. So all of that gets filled up in advance. Water bottles come outside with us, and they're water bottles where when the heat hits them, they won't heat up, right? So
Yeah.
that way it stays cold to be able to drink more. And that way I know that I need to finish what is in those bottles. My kids, same thing. You need to finish those bottles as the day goes on, So let's say, like, if we're out in the morning before lunch, these need to be empty. And so it gives you that target goal because you've already prepared it. So you've prepped by drinking, and then you've given yourself that target goal to say, I need to finish this vessel prior to this period of time. And so it
Mhm.
sets those targets, and then it's a lot easier. You're not having to think about it on the go.
And I noticed a few tips for that work for me to drink more. Besides, is one, I for some reason drink a ton when I eat. I will drink a glass or two of water when I eat. So for me, I make sure every meal is water and water only because I notice I'll get a lot in during that time. Tip two is I use a straw. I will drink a ton more when I have a straw versus when I have to kind of sip from a cup. So those are two tips from me that I have that help me drink more water as well.
Them. And that's the thing, is everybody's different, right?
Mhm.
So just because one works for me, like, I like these bottles, I like to plan it in advance, I know exactly what my target's going to be, and then
Mhm.
I know it's like, as long as I drink this much, I'll be fine. Then it's good. I drink out of a cup, right? Even in the clinic, I constantly have a cup because I like seeing the progress. Versus when it's in the bottle and I'm
Mhm.
inside, I don't see the progress, so I'm not as like challenged to like finish this glass so I can fill another one. I'm going to fill another one. It's like this constant challenge that I do during my workday. And that works for me. But then,
Mhm.
the straw works for Dr. Bobbie. So, like, You just have to find your strategies, and you will. And then once you find it, then it's like, oh my gosh, this is so much easier. And now I don't have that headache, and I don't feel as sick out in the sun, and I don't have those cramps at night. And it's great when you feel better, and then you can enjoy summertime. Even though it's super hot, you can still enjoy it safely.
Yeah. So we want you to be hydrated for summer. We want you to stay proactive with it, preventative. That is so important. And join our 30-day challenge. It's free. It encourages you. It's 64 ounces, which is a general 8 glasses of 8 ounces, and trying to target that each day. If you're not close to that, you just kind of work your way up to it. So it's a good challenge, and you kind of can keep track of what you've drank, and then you can see how you feel and see if it's made a difference at the end. The link will be below in the description. So go ahead, click on it, and we'll send that over to your email box.
All right, and don't forget, share this episode with somebody that you think might also benefit, and that way we continue to grow the audience that we're trying to reach out, which is saying, hey, like, it can be small steps that help you feel better on a day-to-day basis. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much for the support.